World Cup semi-final day has dawned in Cape Town, and the heavy rains of recent times may have narrowed the gap between New Zealand and England. On Rugby World Cup, presented by Bill O'Hurley.
Chase is on. Damien Smith trying to get him off. Tony Underwood is in. Tony Underwood gets the try.
Out to Lumu. First touch for the big man. Lumu goes round Craig Joyner. What a sight this is. Joyner misses the tackle. It's Hastings. Lumu through Hastings. Holds on, and this is going to be an awesome try.
Hello and you're very welcome to our live coverage of the second semi-final of the Rugby World Cup. And Jonah Lomo and Tony Underwood are just two of the stars on show this afternoon in one of the most eagerly awaited matches, I think, in the history of this great tournament. Without belittling South Africa and France, this is the semi-final that has attracted most interest, and it could well be the match that will provide us with the winner of the tournament. England and New Zealand have shown examples of some magnificent rugby in the tournament, and the contrast between the tight play of the English and the more expansive running game of the All Blacks should provide us with a fascinating contrast in Cape Town today. With me this afternoon are Kieran Fitzgerald, Tony Ward, Ralph Keys and Brent Pope, and I'm sure you're looking forward very much to the game. And I noticed actually, Brent, that you're wearing a jacket today. Is that a measure of the importance you're placing in New Zealand win?
No, I was told I was the only one without a jacket on yesterday, so a bit of smarten up in act. But I'm really looking forward to this game.
Will New Zealand smarten up, though? Will they be good enough today? And tell us why they should win, will they?
Well, I think they will be, obviously, but I think there's been a lot of this is very important for New Zealand rugby. Since the last World Cup, there's been a lot of politics involved with the coaches, especially between Laurie Mains and John Hart in New Zealand. There's been the recent disappointments of the Bledisloe Cup series against Australia. So, as I said right from the beginning, they came to this tournament under a shroud of secrecy. And that was going to be their danger, because nobody really rated them at one stage. I think they were a good bookies bet at 10 to 1 or something. But I think the New Zealand team will obviously be trying to move the big English pack around, and if they would perceive that if they can get 30 to 40% of the line-out ball, that would be enough to unleash their backs. And I think everybody's talking about the experience of England's pack, but I see that as a disadvantage. The England pack made up the basis of the Lions that toured out there a couple of seasons ago, so New Zealand know how to play them. Whereas I don't think England know a lot about these guys like Mertens and...
OK, let's stop it at that, though. That's a provocative comment. Kieran, take that up, that experience is a disadvantage.
Well, I certainly wouldn't agree with that. I think in occasions like this, experience is a key advantage for any side. And I think this is no ordinary match. I think this is a semi-final of a World Cup, and nerves and tension and hype are bound to be huge distractions. And while New Zealand have a very exciting team, I think they're going to suffer because the exciting players of Osborne, Mertens, key players, Lomo, they're young guys, and there is a risk factor, and they've got to go through occasions like this. If they can rise above and produce what they have, then they're remarkable people.
Yeah, I'd take that up. I think the big question mark today, you said at the top of the programme, is the contrast between the styles. And England there's been a lot of criticism of the England team over the last 18 months in their own land about, for example, leaving Neil back out on the basis that they're playing a very limited game that's based around this big back row. I think today is the litmus test in many ways for them, because they're coming up against New Zealand side that has unleashed an incredible talent in Josh Kronfeld, who looks like another Michael Jones. Now, as Brent said, what New Zealand are seeking to do is to play a wide game. And in this guy, they certainly have the player to do that, because he helps their continuity game. England, on the other hand, will try and deprive them of possession. And I agree with Kieran. I think they have the players to do that.
Well, I think that you know, New Zealand have the advantage of having seen England come good really in the last game, and what New Zealand are very good at and have shown in the past is analysing where they need to work on, and I think that have spent a lot of time during the week doing that. And I think the line-out will become crucial in as much as who controls the throw-in. Now, I don't expect to see New Zealand kicking a lot of ball into touch to hand the control of the throw-in back to England. I think they'll kick to tackle, They'll try and use the kick to create second phase and use their strength, Josh Cronfeld, to continue the plays and leave Merton's releases back.
Let's have a look at Cronfeld. He scored in one example we extracted with the great Lomo involved in this thing. Brent, talk us through this
Well,
one.
you see here, say Cronfeld is, as far as only Neil Back and Cabans are the only true open siders in the tournament. And you'll see him there with the black headgear there, just looming up in support. I mean, Lomo's a great man to play off for any flanker, but you see here, he's right on the spot, and a great try, and he nearly did it against Scotland as well. So as I said, he is the only, you see once again, I mean, as I say, Loma's such an easy guy to play off, and he just pops the ball up, but it's good for him to be there, and there's a lot of loose forwards that wouldn't be there.
It's a great asset. It's a great asset for an out half like Mertens to know that he can move ball that he gets wide, knowing that Cronfeld is likely to be the man there first.
But you're assuming like that Lomo is unstoppable, first of all, because Lomo is making Cronfield look good. Cronfield is a very good open.
There's a lot of
well, fair enough, but I mean, England, there's nobody doubt New Zealand's ability to do their homework, but England are no slouches in that regard either.
But I don't think I said before, I think as Ralph would agree that New Zealand aren't stupid, and they're very analytical about it, and I think knowing the pack, they know English pack, that the English team would know a lot about these backs.
But isn't the thing about England that when they had to do it, they have done it, and they did it in this tournament.
New Zealand haven't proved
exactly.
it yet. They've shown loads of promise and loads of potential, but can potential beat experience on the day? I mean, this is...
It all revolves around that with certain key players. Now, funnily enough, in some of the papers today, Loma was being put forward as a great asset, but a huge liability as well. And because he has no defence, and he turns apparently like a super tanker. He's so slow, and they'll exploit. So well, let's see what happens there. But Osborne, Tony, was picked out as one of the players who could have a huge determining factor in the result.
Yeah, well, I think, as we've said before, in '87, what they had in that period of New Zealand dominance, they had an outstanding fullback in John Gallagher on the counter-attack. And they now have that again in Osborne. I mean, it's beautiful balanced running, and the amount of ground he's made up, and then he places the ball down. But it means any loose kicking at all today is likely to see New Zealand counter-attacking. They have players all over the field to do that. Having said that, I think in Rob Andrew, you've got the outstanding outside half in the competition, in my opinion, and I can't see him giving him too many loose opportunities to run back to.
I think they could use Lomo today as well as a decoy, because everybody's talking about him. I think they could use him as a decoy and use Osborne or runners like that going back the other way.
Wilson, yeah.
So the English defence, well, it's very, very good. They may move out. It's all a drift base. They could use Osborne going back in there. So that is a plus for if they can get the ball in the first instance to do that.
I suppose the point has to be made. Everybody's saying, yes, Lomo's deficiencies. I mean, I said that from the start, and we've always said that from the start, but that's great to say. Who exactly has put him down yet? That's the point. It's easy to say, oh, yes, we won't give him the ball, we won't do him, but if he gets the ball twice, you know, I'd say Underwood would be shaking in his boots.
All right, the other player, sorry, Tony, for cutting across, the other player that people are saying will have a huge influence in the game is Mertens. Talk us through Mertens, Ralph.
Well, he's really launched himself in this World Cup, and he's well balanced, he's controlled, and here we see an unbelievable turn of pace. I mean, he left Mark Ellis standing, his own right winger, who's no slouch himself, and but what Mertens has brought to the team is control. He has very quick hands, and he's also a prolific goal kicker. And you know, I don't subscribe to Kieran's viewpoint that he could crack under the pressure. I think New Zealand players have come out of the woodwork.
It's a fair point, though, that they
years.
haven't been there, isn't it?
They haven't been there, but New Zealand players are used to playing in pressure situations all the time. It's different maybe on this side of the world. You get on an international side, it takes you 4 or 5 games to get in, but I think New Zealand play at such a high level at provincial and the Super 10s and all this that they're well used to the pressure.
Certainly from New Zealand's point of view, I think he's the first outside half they've had that goes as close to Grant Fox, but with many more assets as well. I mean, he's a cross somewhere between, probably, Brent might agree with this, Steve Bishop and Grant Fox. He's somewhere in between, and he's got the abilities of both. He's an outstanding player, there's no doubt about that. Whether he's up to the pressure today remains to be seen.
All right, we leave it there for the time being, take a commercial break, back with more discussion before we go for our live coverage to Cape Town.
It's easy to see why more and more people are choosing the Quarter Pounder Extra Value Meal at McDonald's. Extra Value Meals, just $2.95 at McDonald's restaurants nationwide.
Sorry.
Permission to land.
Avoid the anxiety of running out of cash. Visa, making life easier.
See the exclusive range of bathroom suites in PJ Matthews' new showrooms at Ballysimon Road, Limerick. Remember, nobody matches Matthews, the plumbing and heating specialists.
Create your own dream home with a prize worth £24,000 from 2FM and the Sunday World. One lucky person will win this fabulous prize, which consists of £8,000 cash from National Irish Bank, an £8,000 Norman Pratt Conservatory, an £8,000 ORM kitchen. For details on how to enter, tune into 2FM or see this Sunday's Sunday World.
I got chills, they're multiplying, and I'm losing control. Those new yogurts you're supplying, they're electrifying.
Better shave off. There's more fruit and bio to keep your taste buds satisfied. Better shave off. The fat is very low. Creamy taste is nice inside.
Are you sure?
Just sit back and open wide.
You're the one that I want.
You are the one I want.
New St. Ivo shape.
Quad Van Damme. Street Fighter.
Cock-a-doo. Cock-a-doo-doo-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Nothing starts the day like Kellogg's Corn Flakes Cock-a-doodle.
Obviously England are playing good rugby. I mean, very safe rugby. They're not, you know, I mean, they've got a great set of forwards. They've got a great line out. And Morris at half's got a good few options. He kicks the ball a lot, or he gives it to Andrew, who kicks the ball a lot. So really, you know, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just saying that's what's won them so far to date. So why change? And that's the way they'll continue to play.
I do detect a sense of criticism in what you're saying of England.
I've been criticising rugby for many years now since they've changed the rules. So why change? I like to play the game where you've got a lot of flair, you've got the chance to show your ability, chance to show how good you are. Rory Underwood last week got the ball once in front of me, knocked on. I mean, that was it. He didn't get the ball again. Gus Scott hasn't got the opportunity to get the ball. I mean, these guys have got talent. They're not getting it. Cause, punch up like rugby league, wait, someone kills the ball, shoot for goal.
Boring old England is what he's saying in effect. Is he right?
Well, boring possibly because they play to their strengths. They have a very good ball-winning pack. They've got good halfbacks. They've got a jewel of a player, a key player in Andrews, and they've got a very strong midfield defence. So maybe boring, but successfully boring.
All right, Tony, you were making the point that Underwood's try capped the best controlled rugby you saw in the World Cup so far, the best half.
Yeah, I thought the first 40 minutes of England's game against Australia last week, I thought they were absolutely superb. It was clinical rugby, playing to the rules, as David Campese was saying, which they did. But it's the pressure England exert, and then the clinical way in which they finish off a counter-attacking move. I mean, that's brilliant England play. They're waiting for the opportunity, and boy, do they pounce. But it's the pressure in midfield, and again, we're going to see today, Bill, a tremendous contrast in the middle between Bunsen Little and Gus Scott and Carling. But the England midfield defence is superbly organised. They don't often make tackles, but they cover the space so well. And that's what led to that breakup where Lyon ended up dropping the ball, and then they really hit home.
Can, Ralph, though, can England, or can New Zealand run England off their feet today? Everything is predicated on that fact, isn't it? Can it be done?
Well, it
can be done, but I mean it's going to be difficult to contact the English forward power. But I think New Zealand will have done their homework and vary the lineouts. They'll try and move ball quickly into midfield to Bunce to create second phase from which Mertens can launch a very quick back division and get Cronford into the game. So, you know, I think it is possible, and New Zealand will be one of the sides better equipped than anybody else probably to do that.
Okay. Well, the teams, I gather, are coming into the tunnel at this particular point in time. So, Brent, give us a final thought.
Well, I hope for rugby's sake too that New Zealand do go out with it.
Do you think it is important that New Zealand win, do you, for the sake of rugby?
Well, it is for me.
I mean, that's...
No, I think the style of rugby, as I say, you know, England, it's an old team. I think New Zealand have shown in this tournament they're a stylish team, and I hope that they stick to the plan and moving it wide. And I'll put my head on the line and say, win the All Blacks by more than 10 points.
Who agrees with that?
Come on, Rob.
I'd go for New Zealand as well. I think that England might be guilty of being a slave to forward power today and not change their game plan enough to beat New Zealand.
For the
well read by Osborne. Whistle goes. And it's a free kick for the mark by Osborne. And the referee now blows the half-time whistle. What an eventful first half. No one could have anticipated it, but certainly New Zealand very pleased with the scoreline at the break. New Zealand 25, England 3.
Fabulous performance indeed by New Zealand. We'll have comment, but we'll take a commercial break now with the smiling face of Brent Pope.
Avoid the anxiety of running out of cash. Visa, making life easier.
Create your own dream home with a prize worth £24,000 from 2FM and the Sunday World. One lucky person will win this fabulous prize, which consists of £8,000 cash from National Irish Bank, an £8,000 Norman Pratt Conservatory, an £8,000 ORM kitchen. For details on how to enter, tune into 2FM or see this Sunday's Sunday.
So England being led by 25 points to 3, and obviously in the team talk there at half-time, a huge amount of work necessary to pull this one out of the fire, and I wouldn't take any bets that they would do that. All right, Brent, indulge yourself.
Well, I was just saying before, Rob, Andrew, MBE, Sir Jonah Lomu, in the next honours list. It's been a great start, and I said 10 points, but I really meant 20. But no, they've done exactly as we said. They've moved England around. I think for about the first 10, 15 minutes, England didn't even see the ball. And you know, if you haven't got the ball, you can't play with as simple as that. But I don't think anybody expected them to be that good.
Ralph, did you ever see a start of a match as powerful as that by any team?
No, it's been incredible, really, and I think it's even gone beyond New Zealand's expectations to race into a lead like that. And an interesting statistic, at 30 minutes into the first half, there was more scrums than lineouts. There was 7 lineouts and 8 scrums, and I mean, for New Zealand to literally take the lineout out of the first half.
You said in advance of the match that they in fact would do that.
Well, we spoke about the fact that they would have had their homework done and that they'd try and play the game at such a pace and kick to tackle and not put the ball into touch. And they did that, and they kept rucks alive, literally nearly into touch, swung England around, and Dean Richards, for example, hasn't been in the match, and it doesn't suit him, this type of game. where he's just lost. He can't
Well,
get around
the game doesn't suit England at all, actually.
No, but it doesn't. No.
Now, what about Lomo? What a performance! Let's have a look at this first try, Tony. But he answered all the questions, as John Rugby said.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Brent says, when he grows up, he's going to be some player. When he fully matures, I'll tell you, he's something else. I mean, they really they played the game so well early on. They had done their homework. But this is brilliant, particularly all the talk that Tony Underwood, etc., had. And he ploughs through Cat just as he did to Gavin Hastings in the Scottish game.
He's like a juggernaut, isn't he?
He is the most extraordinary talent I think we've ever seen in the world game. And what is he, 20 years of age? I mean, the world is that guy's oyster.
He was tested on the high ball as well. He just saying, you know, with the questions about his defence, and he just bumped them off and went back up again. There's no doubt like that New Zealand have won the tactical battle hands down. And in fact, England look a shattered side, and they looked a shattered side after the first 2 tries, and they've never actually regrouped. And it's a major battle for them now to see can they get back into it.
All right, well, let's see what happens. Let's go back to Cape Town to Fred Cogley and John Robbie.
Thank you, Bill. Brian Moore, the
Kenny Mullen in the centre, young Bell who's playing in the centre. How many passes did they receive in space in this World Cup? You could count them on one hand, and that is the sad thing, and that's the lesson Ireland and other sides have got to learn.
And certainly the All Blacks, when they had the chance any time, they tried to get it out into midfield to create the space for Lomu. Sometimes he was used as a diversion, but once he was there, coming into the play, we now have a word with the New Zealand captain, Sean Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, I don't think I've ever seen you more content and more happy. That must be one of the most satisfying victories of your career, I take it.
Yeah, it is. It's had a big build-up all week, and a lot of memories of '93, and you know, that was part of it. But you know, just knowing that we could do it, and being part of a winning team, put a lot of effort into it, and I'm sure we'll agree it was a great game of rugby, and a game that we wanted desperately. And at the end of the day, you know, we got the start we wanted, and you know, just a fantastic feeling. And that's 5 out of the way. We've got 1 to go on Saturday, and you know, we're looking forward to playing the Box. Everyone's been telling us ever since I've been here we've been looking forward to the final between South Africa and New Zealand, but until now, you know, it hasn't been, and you know, we're looking forward to it, and just pleased that this one's out of the way.
We've got to very quickly get on to that man in the number 11 jersey for the All Blacks, Jonah Lomu. 4 tries, and I guess he stamped his impression on the game, what, within about 60 seconds, or was it 2 minutes at the start? Yeah, it was, and you know, he got room to move, and we kept those deficiencies that he's got, we kept those hidden. But you know, he's got a bit of work to do, and he loved it, and it's good to see him running out there. I definitely wouldn't want to tackle. I'm sure Will feel the same way too. Much was made in the build-up to this game, Sean, about it being a contrast of styles between New Zealand and the way that England play the game. Do you feel in some way now that the expansive game that the All Blacks have promoted since you've been here has been vindicated today? Oh, I don't know. I think England showed that they can play the expansive game too, and they scored tries out wide. You know, Will scored a couple, but it was an enjoyable game, and that's what I play the game for. I play the game to enjoy it, and I've played in a few games that I've enjoyed and a few I haven't, but today was an enjoyable game, and you know, you get forwards hitting rucks and you get good clean ball, and that's what the crowd comes to see. And number 8's kicking drop goals? Well, he's been trying for a while. I'm sure Will go back to the Lions in '93. He's tried a few there, but yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty demoralising when a number 8 kicks a drop goal from halfway. And also a lot was made finally, Sean, about the expected dominance that England were going to have in the lineouts. I guess you'd be pleased the way that Robin and Ian Jones were able to compete, and down the back you guys were able to compete pretty well, even on England's throw. Yeah, well, I'll have to look at the tapes. I wasn't looking at those too much, but yeah, we were just committed, and you know, it was a good game of rugby. I'm not going to get too carried away because we've got another week to go, and you know, we've got work to do for next week, and I'm sure the South Africans feel the same way, that they've got some work to do. Wouldn't have been the ideal game for them yesterday, but we're looking forward to it. I'm sure the South Africans are too. Enjoy your celebration, enjoy your victory, and get down to hard work in a couple of days' time. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thanks.
The man who's captained the All Blacks to a famous victory, still able to see that Jonah Lomu has 1 or 2 deficiencies. I'd like to know what they are, because as an attacking player he's quite remarkable. In a few moments we'll be chatting to Will Carling, the England captain, but the England spectators very concerned, but Will Carling doesn't seem too disappointed.
Will Carling, you're managing a wry smile after that, but what a torrid experience that must have been for you and your team.
Yeah, I think we came across a side who played some quite unbelievable rugby in the first 10 minutes. You know, and I think when people play like that, you just got to hang on in, and we did, and we scored some great tries at the end, but they were fairly awesome today.
They hit you very early on with a big punch. How crucial was that?
as a fairly big punch, number 11. It is. I mean, you give 10 points like that. We didn't give them, but when you go 10 points down, it makes it very hard. Some very controlled, disciplined rugby, and scored some good tries. And unfortunately, we just couldn't stop them. You know, miss a tackle against a side like that, and they're going to score.
25 points down at one stage. You did come back pretty well towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I was, delighted to put a lot of hard work in, just as a squad, not just a 15. And, I wanted them to show a bit of pride that it has not all gone to waste, and I was delighted with the way they did come back and played some great rugby. We were shattered out there, and yet they still kept going. And I think it's a mark of a good side, and one that I'm very proud with.
How do you stop this fellow Lomu?
Well, we didn't come up quite with... It's easy for me to say. We didn't quite come up with a solution today. I'm hoping not to see him again myself, but if we do, I think we'll have to work at that one. He's awesome. He's a freak, and the sooner he goes away, the better.
And just finally, you've got a very important game coming up now in the week, because I think you've got to win it to qualify for the next World Cup tournament.
Yeah, I think so. I think just for our pride, we wanted to win, and we're desperate to come third, not fourth, and so, we'll work very hard, I think, to win that one.
Thanks very much, Will.
Pleasure.
Well, that's the scene in Cape Town after an extraordinary performance indeed. Brent, Carling talked there about unbelievable rugby in the first 10 minutes by New Zealand. That really was the key to it all, wasn't it?
Well, that was the key. I mean, there were so many points up in Test rugby. Say 10 points up is a good lead, let alone going to the half-time, I think, at 35-3. I mean, the All Blacks did take the foot off the pedal a bit, 25-3, couldn't carry it away. But they took the foot off the pedal in the second half, probably because they were looking to the final a bit. But, as I say, fair play to England in the end. They did score a few good tries in the second half.
Yeah. Ralph, it was the best. New Zealand.
It was, and when they came into the World Cup, they had been written off, and nobody was talking about them as a force, and it's very dangerous to write New Zealand off, and they proved it in every match. And the only concern they might have is that they've conceded 28-30 points in the last couple of games, but I think it's more because they took the foot off the pedal more than anything else, and I think they'll go on and win the competition now.
Yeah, England got a lot of scores at the end there, when New Zealand clearly were coasting, and they're looking perhaps even at that stage to the final, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about hitting the ground running. They really took off in that game. In fact, when Mertens lined up at the start to kick to the right, I didn't know what was happening, and then you suddenly saw from his chip kick off that he was looking for Lomu straight away, and they announced their intention loud and clear, and 2 tries so early on. It was tremendous. It was the two different, or the contrasting styles, and there's no doubt which one deservedly won out today.
Your view?
It was a tremendous game of rugby. As a contest, I think it was over after 20 minutes, because I think the All Blacks were so far ahead that England just couldn't cope, and they looked like a shattered team making mistakes at that point. But full credit to England in the second half. They did come back, they did try to make a game of it, but you have to wonder at that stage how much New Zealand were looking at the final, or rather just finishing the match rather than going further ahead. But Lomu, he is, I mean, Will Carling called him a freak, and I'm sure he meant that in the best possible way, but exceptional. I don't think we've ever seen a winger like that in rugby. I certainly have never seen something like that.
Well, we're going to certainly look forward to seeing the 4 tries he scored immediately after this commercial break.
Don't just paint it, crown it.
Together, home and car insurance costs less at PMPA. Phone or call direct to your local PMPA branch.
Come in, Oscar Delta. Charlie.
Permission to land.
Watch them all at the Murphy's Irish Open.
Wow.
It must be new Arm & Hammer baking soda toothpaste.
Avoid the anxiety of running out of cash. Visa, making life easier.
Dad, you're really playing today?
Yeah, I'm playing.
At Wembley?
Yeah, I'm playing at Wembley.
Dad, you just had my chocolate.
Chocolate.
Kickoff's not till 3. Relax.
See the exclusive range of bathroom suites in PJ Matthews showrooms at Ballysimon Road, Limerick. Remember, nobody matches Matthews, the plumbing and heating specialists.
Create your own dream home with a prize worth £24,000 from 2FM and the Sunday World. One lucky person will win this fabulous prize, which consists of £8,000 cash from National Irish Bank, an £8,000 Norman Pratt Conservatory, an £8,000 ORM kitchen. For details on how to enter, tune into 2FM or see this Sunday's Sunday World.
Don't just paint it, crown.
Jonah Lomu got 4 tries today. He's got 35 points in the course of this World Cup. He's now the 10th top scorer in the competition so far. Ralph, is he the greatest rugby winger of all time?
Well, I don't know. Can you say that he was classically a great winger, but he's certainly, as Will Carling said, a freak, and he's more important to the world game of rugby now. I mean, he's a big hit with all the kids around the country. Previously, it was Tigamala that all the kids used to refer to as the bus. I know they get over that there's a bigger guy than the bus playing with New Zealand, and he's and if you look at all the coaching manuals, and all the coaches will tell you, you know, if you want to tackle somebody, you go in low and you drive in with your shoulder and knock him down. But I mean, if you do that with this guy, you just lose your shoulder. There's no way to bring him down.
All right, let's have a look at him in action. Tony, talk us through some of this. And
yeah, well, as Kieran said, he has to be not only the most effective winger of all time, but certainly the most effective three-quarter we've ever seen. I mean, that's awesome stuff. But it's the handoff, Bill. That's the one thing we haven't really emphasised. He's a handoff like a shovel. I mean, he's built, you can't even say low to the ground because he's so big, but he's as wide as he's big. But it's his handoff at all times. I mean, he's no right to score here. There's no way that ball, you think, would be hacked away to touch. But look at the handoff. I mean, at all times he's in control. The ball in the perfect position in the left hand. And there's the balance. And then the way he goes through cat. Oh, that is awesome stuff, by any standard.
We were saying the only way you could really tackle him is when he doesn't know you're coming in for the tackle, because other than that, he'll just hand you off.
Here's the second try.
Again, the continuity play of New Zealand throughout. I mean, at all times they're keeping the ball alive, and that was the thing, the pace at which they played the game early on. And you talk about Zinzan Brooks' all-round skills. Look at this for a pass from a number 8. Beautiful spin pass off his left hand. And then in and outside. I think it was Andrew in the end who, unfortunately for him, ended up in that position. But his balance for such a big man. I mean, when you consider he was a number 8 on the New Zealand schools team a few years ago against Ireland. Look at that for skill. I mean, any three-quarter would be proud of that. Philippe Sella at his best in the centre. Brilliant.
I suppose if he was playing in Ireland, he wouldn't be playing on the wing at all, would he?
I doubt it. Very, very much.
This is the up and under we were talking about. That they would test him with the bomb. And the tractor just bounced off him. There he goes on the offensive. Now you see all the big guys from the English pack. Number Rodber, second row, Obugo. The prop, he takes them all out. And quick ruck ball for the Blacks.
Third try coming up now.
And again, he's in space. He's on top for the meeting. But that was terrific support play. And Cronfeld all over the place. And Carling does quite well here, relatively speaking.
That was super play by Cronfeld. He had an outstanding match, and he keeps everything moving here. A super pass. He's in support and flicks out the pass to Lomo, and it's all over at that stage. But Cronfeld, throughout the whole game, allowed New Zealand to play the quick hands and the continuity game because he won every loose ball that was going.
And his defence...
Yeah, well, his tackling is not great. I mean, it's not textbook tackling, but it's the angles at which he runs.
And, you can see the smile on his face in a couple of those tackles. I think he really enjoyed himself. But as you said, it's not great tackling. It's around the collar stuff here, but it's more or less just saying sort of...
That's sheer brute force.
Just sort of take that, you know.
But he was determined, I think, not to let Tony Underwood go around him today after all the press coverage.
And this is a try we see, I think, Lomu's real skills here, the in and out. You see here, he takes him straight on, and watch for the side slip if you see it from home here. The in and out there leaves him no chance. Now that's a hard try to score by any international winger, and he makes it look, as I said, so easy.
From this angle here, this is textbook wing play. He does everything. Bashop had a brilliant game today as well, it must be said. But look at this, outside first, hand off, and watch this for a sidestep. This is Gerald Davies on the right wing at his best. In and out off his left. Balance, pace, power.
But actually the thing that strikes me, having watched that game, is there was so much nonsense talked in advance that this guy was incomplete, that they'd put him under pressure and they would take him out. And in fact they actually wrote with great authority in the papers today that he, in fact, as much as he was the strength, he was the weakness of the New Zealand team. Well, that's a complete farce, that kind of statement.
Yeah, I think Sean Fitzpatrick made a very valid comment afterwards, and he said that they play to their strengths. And he obviously is a tremendous attacking strength for New Zealand. And they just get the ball out to him with space. And there was an article in the paper where Laurie Mains just told him, get the ball and run. And that's all. And there are very few players that in your team that you could say, just take the ball and run. But that is his strength. I think if he has a deficiency, and Sean Fitzpatrick hinted that he may have, it hasn't been shown up. And certainly England, because even the kicking that they kicked in front of him. So he just wasn't exposed to anything, and he dealt with whatever he was given.
Is it worth a while looking again? Because the big question that was raised by John Robbie was, and indeed everybody else, how do you stop him? How will South Africa stop him?
You see, John,
look at him again and tell us, how do you stop a player
well,
like
you
that?
stop the ball getting to him. That's what you've got to do. You've got to stop it at source. But when it gets
and is that all you can do, is it?
No, that's easier said than done. John was making the point in commentary that you stand up flat from set play, and that's fair enough. But some of those tries, he's impossible to stop.
The only way to possibly stop him is if you can just get in front of him and fall back with him. Because to go in and try and hit him, it's suicidal.
I think it's say that the South Africans, the one guy South African got is Grant. So he'll be the one guy that will actually relish the opportunity to tackle him. He's a type of physical guy, so they'll probably put him on Lomo.
But Robbie made a very good point, didn't he? That Simon Gagan should start up a consultancy because he's the only person who so far has stopped him.
And he was tackle number 6, I think, in that particular sequence of play. But yeah, he did well.
All right, okay. We were making the point, apart from Lomo, who is the outstanding player, that the most impressive part of today, Tony, was the support play of New Zealand in the very, very important early stages. And it was very evident indeed when it led ultimately to Zinzan Brooks' drop goal.
That's right. I mean, I think we have coming up here in this piece we're going to show where the ball is kicked back behind New Zealand. When the ball is actually recovered, it's the number of New Zealand players who get behind the ball who manage to set up the ruck that is taken down the side, and then eventually it finishes with Zinzan Brooks managing to put over the drop goal.
We're going to see that in a second. But the support play was awesome as well, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, attack. That is one aspect that was obviously impressive. We've seen how many times he supported Lomo and he scored tries from him, but it was the play of all the forwards when the ball was kicked back, getting behind their full back to support him when it came down, getting behind.
This is the fitness we talked about. I mean, the types of training camps they've been doing, just for the ability to say when the ball goes up for 6, 7, 8, 4 and 5, you'd see back there supporting the guy, not leaving him alone to take the catch. And as I say, the support play was probably the most important factor in the win today.
They probably expected Andrews to kick at the high ones as well. And
but every time they seem to get tackled, even if they threw the ball behind him, there seemed to be a guy running on to catch it again. Another team might have just gone into thin air.
And the frightening thing is that it's type of cohesion we saw today you might expect from an experienced New Zealand side. This is a New Zealand side in the making, and
that's right.
You know, it is really frightening for the rest of the world over the next couple of years.
Again, at all times, they were trying to get the ball away from the point of contact, because if Wilson had just taken that ball there, England would have smothered him up and got the put in. At all times, they're trying to get away from the point of contact and chip down the side here by Bashop.
Being confident in the player behind you and the ability. You see Wilson, he just tapped it back to Osborne previously there. They just know there's a guy behind them there at any stage, and that's just confidence.
And they're trying to get the ball out of touch.
Which is unusual, as Ralph said, for an inexperienced side to have that much confidence around your heads. I mean, this is just rubbing salt with the wounds, really. pivot, really.
But I think the key in New Zealand, once they got the points of the first 2 tries, you know, there's an enormous amount for their confidence, like, and they played then, like, really was from there on in.
But what about Robbie's point as well, that the real lesson of that particular game is that an expansive side, which does its homework, as Ralph said they would have done in advance, will always beat a door side like England.
They won't always do it, but if they play the game like New Zealand did today, they certainly will. Yeah. I think the point John made at the end about maximising your resources, they certainly proved today that when you do that, and not just for the romantics of Munster, but all of us who love rugby, that's the way the game should be played, and it was great to see. Rugby was the winner today, make no mistake.
But they played at a pace as well. Like, very few sides can play at the pace and still retain possession of the ball. Very often when you play at pace like that, you make mistakes. They could play at the pace, sustain the pace, and not make mistakes. And the other old chestnut, like, of playing in the Northern Hemisphere, where you play your championship in the very difficult weather conditions, it's not prone to spinning it wide, where they always say that France had an advantage because they play in better climatic conditions. And Southern Hemisphere, their skills are better, they're more finely honed, they have greater confidence in putting it wide and using that option. But I think it's a tremendous sight for rugby, or any rugby, genuine rugby player, to see the likes of that you can have the wide option, and it looks so good and it's so effective.
Yeah. All right, we talked actually earlier on about, in fact, before the game, about the importance that we've been placing some of the younger players. So let's have a look now at Bishop's try, which showed some terrific running indeed by everybody, Brent.
Well, you see here, it's a typical Zinzan book. Quick ball, watch Bishop here. Takes 2 minutes, the overhead pass. Now watch for the support here. 3, 4, 5 guys inside. Here's the pass here, and Bishop deserved that try. I thought Bishop had a super game. He's probably not the physical guy like Van der Westhausen, but his passing is the best in the tournament. You see here again, just the thought behind it, the overhead pass, Wilson good support. Look at the guys queuing up to score the try here. You see before he's got the try. And that's just confidence again.
I think that was the team try of the competition.
But I think Kieran stressed the thing before. In New Zealand rugby, there's a difference possibly to Ireland in a way. It's mistake-free rugby, and it starts at training, it starts at schoolboys rugby. Over here, if a guy makes a break of 30, 40 metres and loses the ball, people still say, well done, or great run. In New Zealand, once you've lost the ball and turned over that position, that is a sin in New Zealand rugby. And you see today the support play, retaining position every time they go into the rack. And a lot of these teams, they look attractive, but they lose the ball going forward, and the momentum's been killed.
But could you ever see us achieving rugby of that standard?
Why not?
I think if we practice
it's an attitude of mind as much as
we don't practice it, Bill. Like, we don't practice it. Like, we play. We're sometimes dictated by success in the championship. We saw England get in defence or being successful. So now we're looking for big guys in the pack. And there you saw a perfect support to the counter argument to say that Scotland hinted at it in the championship. They say that they hinted at upsetting England and moving them apart. But you need to have the possession, and when you have it, then you need to hold on to it. And we certainly, that's one area, the ball retention, that we need to improve. And we did improve in the World Cup. But I think we need to practice it, to play it in our club games, to play it in our training camps, our training sessions, in our club games, and then not to be afraid to risk it at the higher level.
But there's an enormous, looking at yesterday's game and today's game, there is an enormous gap really between the southern and northern hemispheres. And in fact, again, to quote John Robbie, he said England were light years behind New Zealand in their approach to the game, and yet they're the European champions.
Well, it comes down to planning too, in a sense. I think New Zealand had great foresight coming into the competition when they recognised that they could possibly have a deficiency in terms of physical presence and maybe experience, and months and months ago they just went for a total new fitness regime, and they were saying in the Hong Kong Sevens that they were planning to run everybody off the park and setting out their stall in that area. And it has worked, and allied to that, they're very good, as we said before the match, at analysing weaknesses and where they need to impose their strengths on a game. And I think today they showed their skills in that direction as well by not letting England into the match at all.
I think we should get justifiably carried away, but let's just put it in some perspective as well. England against Australia played their final in many respects. They had a tremendous outing against Australia, a team tipped to be champions from last winners of the World Cup. And England today, after the start that New Zealand got, England looked really shattered, and they weren't as a force at all compared to that. So you've got to put it into some perspective, bring the manner in which they played that match. And after that, they've
realistically, I mean, that's true to say, but realistically, England haven't played the whole tournament. Okay, they had a good game against Australia, sure enough, but other than that, have they really been that good?
But only when you're talking about northern and southern hemispheres. There was a day, given the conditions, dry conditions, and England did look well. It was very evenly matched. Australia could have won it on the day, but nevertheless England did match Australia and managed to score that drop goal at the end. It was very well matched, but you know, they probably have capability, England, that they haven't shown, but they have never showed it in the Championship either, and that's to their own.
But they've now, maybe for them, they've got to go away now from this forward-orientated type of game and say, well, OK, we have to get, like you saw today, the need for an open-side flanker, true open-side flanker.
But do you think that today's game will have revolutionised the approach? Like that a young New Zealand team came on the world stage and demolished England.
It'll increase the argument for England to move away from... They've been a slave to the forward power a bit over the last couple of years, and John Robbie made a good point. They will seriously have to look at the way they play the game. Their starting point is never to use all the talent at their disposal. Their starting point seems to be...
But if they move off, will they be the kind of flag carrier for all of us, that we'll all move off?
It's encouraging for Ireland. I think it's encouraging for Ireland, because we could never match England, and people were saying we should match them in size and stature. We're very much like New Zealand in physique. We're certainly not as good in skills and intensity or commitment and everything else. But we were
talking as well before the game, that was a young man versus experience, etc. I think that proved today that it's certainly becoming more and more a young man's game, that's for certain.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. A huge win there, and a very comprehensive and outstanding win for New Zealand to qualify against South Africa in the World Cup final. The third and fourth place match, which matters so much to England, will be on Thursday at 4 o'clock. We'll be bringing you that game live. And at 2 o'clock on Saturday, we'll bring you the World Cup final. So stay with us for the best of rugby action.